All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be getting into the core plays and the top picks here for week 15 of the NFL DFS slate. Now, I have been in a little bit of a nice stretch here, 6 weeks straight of cashing, and there have been 3 weeks where it was like literally make or break on 1 or 2 plays. So I guess you can say we've been riding hot. Really, I think it's just karma coming back in a positive way, because the start of the season there was like 3 weeks straight where multiple players getting injured and like just barely missing out on cash. And so it feels good to be on a nice little stretch here. And that's really coming down to a little bit of kind of simple strategy. That's really just been paying off, obviously. So we'll get into that a little bit as we're getting to the core plays as well. But let's start off with the quarterbacks here. So just starting off, I do really like Aaron Rodgers as spot at this price point going against the Baltimore Ravens. Not too worried about them. You know, he's been really good, has a lot of upside lately. Matthew Stafford's going to be someone that I'm going to touch on as well later on in the video once I get into the core plays. But, you know, he's going to be another pick that I really like this week. Going to be going down a little bit lower, though. We're going to get into some values here for you. So Jimmy G is actually going to be the highest projected value on the slate. It's like 3.4x. He's projected to get it, and that's because, well, kind of projecting Jeff Wilson to be out, or at least not Jeff Wilson, Eli Mitchell, projecting him to be at least limited this week. With that, Jimmy G will probably throw the ball a little bit more. We saw 41 passing attempts last week, and I think that's a direct reason, being that Elijah Mitchell was out and they just didn't run the ball as much. So, you know, I had a good game in that game. A little bit better matchup, probably his best matchup in, you know, quite a while. So yeah, Jimmy G could easily go for 20 DK points, and that's kind of what the projections are showing us. Let's get into another kind of good value option for us on this slate. I don't mind Tyler Huntley. Okay, if Lamar Jackson is going to be out in this one, Tyler Huntley is a guy that runs the ball a decent amount. We saw him kind of hit value now in the 2 times that he's gotten significant playing time. Obviously against Chicago, he didn't really need much to hit value. 4.1, kind of just the easier play that week. Got 7 rushes, which was key. Does have some fumbling problems. Okay, 3 fumbles lost already, so that's not good, but do really love the rushing upside there with him. 5.4 for a guy that's going to run the ball, you know, around 6 to 7 times for about 50 yards. That's something that's highly appealing to me. If you can just get it going passing, that's going to be huge. He has passed the ball, you know, for a decent amount of yards in those 2 games thus far as well. So he's someone that I think could get there, whether it's in garbage time or real time. We saw Justin Fields get there in garbage time. So, you know, Tyler Huntley could easily do that as well. Now we go down a little bit lower. If Tyler Heineke is going to be rolled out, Kyle Allen is a decent value at that price point. I can easily see him getting 3x there, but not something I want to really go crazy with. Getting into the running backs here. So, right now, too much injury news to really love anyone, okay? We just got to wait and see on the news. Right now, I do really like A.J. Dillon at his price point. Over the last 4 weeks, he's out-snapped Aaron Jones. Really not by that much. And a lot of this will come down to game flow, but he's also going to be a player that I'll touch on a little bit later on. So, just going to keep him as someone that I'll mention a little bit later on. He's going to be a core play. But I do want to point out a couple of things here. I'll type in his name so I can find it faster. Amir Abdullah. So Amir Abdullah has outsnapped Chuba Hubbard the last 5 weeks now. And, you know, he's looked good doing it as well. Chuba Hubbard is the one that kind of got the touchdown. He hadn't done anything before that touchdown last week. A lot of people got bailed out by playing Chuba Hubbard last week. Now, a lot of this play is going to be predicated on potential game flow. Okay, if the Panthers are going to be playing from behind, Amir Abdullah is going to get a little bit more playing time, going to get a little bit more targets. Right now, DJ Moore is a little bit banged up as well. You know, if DJ Moore is going to be limited or out, then, yeah, I think Amir Abdullah might see a little bit more of an uptick in his targets as well. You know, I could see that number going to like 7. So we can get a pass-catching running back that's playing the most snaps at 4.4 in a game script that's going to be more positive for him. Now, I don't love it. You know, that's just kind of the issue right now, is that we got some players that, you know, we had to just wait and see on injury news. Now, obviously, if Sony Michel is going to be the starter in this matchup against Seattle, I do really like that. Want to point out the fact that even when he was splitting time with Darrell Henderson earlier in the year in week 5 against Seattle, he had 11.5 DK points. Darrell Henderson had 16.5 DK points. Okay, they really had their way with the Seattle defense. And so if Henderson is going to be out, I really like Michel at this price point. You know, if he's active, I do kind of still think that Michel is going to be the lead back. but I just don't know if that's a good enough price point to, you know, kind of risk it with him as a pick. Now we're going to move down into the receivers. So I'm one of those guys that just likes to play receivers until they let me down. So like Kupp, Adams, Debo, and Deontay Johnson, they're all players that you could roll with this week. They're all going to be fine plays. I've been saying for a while now, like with Keenan Allen and Deontay Johnson, I'm just going to keep rostering these guys until they let me down. And, well, they just really haven't. It's been like 2 years for Keenan Allen. Deontay Johnson has been priced so low each and every week that he's pretty much just been a lock given his targets. He might not be a lock this week, but his counterpart, Chase Claypool, going to be another one of those guys I'll touch on a little bit later on in this video. I like the matchup there with Tennessee. That's going to be something I think that we can exploit. But showing you guys a couple of values here. So Laquan Treadwell was a guy, I think I ended up making him a core play last week, maybe a high exposure play. But the reason being is that, well, you guys can kind of see by the game log there, 8 targets, 5 targets, 6 targets, 4 catches in all those games, 9.3, 10.2, 10.8 DK points. He has looked, and he's kind of been used as the receiver number 1 in the offense. Not as much last week. Laviska Shenault and Marvin Jones got involved a little bit more last week, but the previous 2 weeks, Laquan Treadwell was kind of the clear-cut receiver 1. Look good on film. I'm just going to keep rolling with it right now. Kind of played him the last 2 weeks. Going to play him again this week. 3.3, definitely too cheap of a price point though for him. When looking at Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault, they're both priced like $1,000 more, and I don't really get that. One player that I'm a little bit curious on, and I almost played him last week, but I didn't. Braxton Berrios. He's a guy that I've always liked. He always looks good on film. Always is able to get open on those short intermediate routes. You know, like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. You know, those type of quarterbacks where they can hit a check down when it's open. They would love him. You know, we have a younger quarterback, not as used to taking the yards when they're there. But we did see Braxton Berrios get 10 targets, and he only played like 45% of the receiver snaps. So really, this is going to go one or two ways. They liked what they saw on film for Berrios, and they're going to get him more snaps. Those targets might stay the same, or those targets are going to go down. It's going to see the same amount of playing time. You know, we'll have to wait and see kind of what that is. But at 3.2, it's definitely something that interests me. Definitely something I'll be, you know, playing a little bit with. If he gets like 9 DK points at that price point, it's not going to hurt you. That's going to help you be able to afford to pay for other studs. And then lastly, you know, I'm going to save the tight end core play here because there's only one tight end play that I really like. So let's start off with the quarterback core play. So I already mentioned it. Matthew Stafford is going to be my core play of the week thus far. This could change given some news that comes out. But as it sits right now, I do really like Matthew Stafford. He's been a very consistent fantasy producer this whole season. He's had 10 out of his 13 weeks with over 20 DK points. And all but one of those, he's scored over 15 DK points. So super consistent. You know, he's highly likely to hit value. And we look at that week 5 matchup against Seattle. He did have over 20 DK points in that one as well. He's someone that I think is safe, reliable. We can easily afford to pay up for him. If you want to stack him with Cooper Kupp, you can easily do that. Now we're going to get into the running back core play, A.J. Dillon here. So I already kind of mentioned it in passing, but he has been playing more snaps and getting more opportunities than Aaron Jones over the last 4 weeks. Now, last week in the showdown slate, I did kind of mention, you know, this is very much predicated on game flow. Aaron Jones, I thought, was due for a touchdown, and we saw that happen. But a lot of the reason why Aaron Jones hasn't had as much fantasy value recently is just game flow. The Packers want to establish the run. They want to control the clock and really just be in control of the game by having long, sustained drives. With that, you know, Aaron Jones is much more of a big play guy. A.J. Dillon is going to be much more of a gasher, much more of a guy that can extend drives. And I think that's more or less why A.J. Dillon has been playing more and getting more opportunities. Needless to say, at 5.7, that's a great price point. Got projected to score 16.2 DK points. Do expect him to keep getting that workload. And obviously, if Lamar Jackson is out, that's going to hurt Baltimore a little bit more offensively, which would lead to the Packers just being on the field a little bit more offensively as well. So I just mean that, you know, A.J. Dillon's a little bit safer of a play. Now getting to Chase Claypool, who I also mentioned in passing. So one thing that I really like about this is going to be the matchup going against the Tennessee Titans, one of the better matchups of the year for Chase Claypool. The only worry really that I see with him as a play is kind of disciplinary reasons. We saw him really have some mental breakdowns throughout that whole game, especially on that last catch that he had. Everyone watching it live was like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that was just like a rookie mistake. I guess he is still a young receiver, but that's just something you don't do. That was just weird. But I think the targets are going to be there. We've seen him have multiple games of over like 9 targets. I do see him getting right around 7 targets in this one. Easy matchup, great price point. If I can't afford to pay it for Deontay Johnson, I'm going to be fine with paying up for Chase Claypool. Those two and Najee Harris have really been the offense. Now getting into the tight end play, JOSIAH DEGUARA. So he has actually been someone I mentioned a decent amount recently, and it's been paying off. So DEGUARA is pretty much in that Robert Tonyan role, maybe not playing as much snaps, giving up a little bit to Mercedes Lewis, but he has been seeing his snaps really increase a lot. We look at his snap usage off the bye. It increased about 10% after the bye. For the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's actually seen his DK points hit value given his price point. And he's still priced too cheap. 2.7 for DEGUARA, kind of the tight end number 1 for the Packers. Definitely too cheap. You know, he's not been getting used a lot, but Robert Tonyan hadn't really been getting used a lot this season as well. A lot of this is predicated on, you know, upside, but I do like the film that he's been putting out there. My strategy a lot recently has been just paying down at tight end, paying down at defense, and kind of paying down at quarterback, and then just really paying up for the studs DFS wise. So you could go with 2 stud running backs, 2 stud receivers, pay down at tight end, pay down at defense, and you're really not losing that much to the field. A lot of times, like last week, I played the Jags defense. I think they ended up scoring like 5 DK points at 2.3 at the minimum price on defense. That was a huge edge that I was able to gain. That's really the reason why I was able to end up cashing, because I didn't waste money on a slightly better defensive play, and I was able to afford someone that was a little bit better play running back wise or receiver wise. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. If you guys want to join 95 Nation, links in the description below. All right, guys, that's all I have for you, and as always, let's keep cashing.